All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. It's time to talk about HeavyCon 2016. D, unfortunately, I didn't go to HeavyCon 2015, which was the first year of the convention.
Right.
It was held at one of the hosts of Heavy Cardboard's house.
Okay.
This one was held at a hotel. It was at the Staybridge Suites next to the Denver International Airport there in Denver, Colorado. I believe the airport might actually be in Aurora, Colorado, I think.
Okay.
But it's right next to Denver and everything. So my wife and I drove up to Aurora, Colorado. Denver, Colorado is about a 13-hour drive. And I had driven about 8 hours when I decided I'm just going to drive this entire thing.
Okay.
I wanted to test myself. So I drove the entire 13 hours to the convention.
Kudos.
Needless to say, I was very tired when we got there.
Absolutely.
And it was pretty late when we got there. We ended up leaving 3 hours late from Stephenville. Trying to get a 1-year-old where he needs to go for a week is not a thing where you get to be on a schedule of
Right.
any kind. So,
No.
yeah, we left 3 hours late. We got there at about 10:30 at night. And,
Okay.
the good thing was I jumped an hour back. So we didn't get there at 11:30. We got there at 10:30.
Right.
So, we ordered Chinese takeout for dinner, had a good night rest. I got up, went to the gym, and then we hit the convention at 8 o'clock that morning.
Nice.
Got our gift bags, which each gift bag, there's a game called SNCF, which is also called Paris Connection. There's another version called Paris Connection.
Okay.
And Tony, one of the former hosts of Heavy Cardboard, he made a map, Transcontinental Railroad map for SNCF, and each gift bag had a copy of that map in there.
That's cool.
So I've now got, it's really awesome, and it's so cool that he did this. I don't have the game, so we've got 2 copies of a map for this game that I don't have, but now have a very good reason to get, right?
Absolutely.
So in each gift bag, there was a mug that came later. The mugs weren't in the gift bags, but we got those on the next to last night of the convention.
Right.
And they say Heavy Cardboard on them, and then there was a shot glass for the board game group. The board game group on Facebook was the people that got these mugs made, right?
Okay.
These like glass mugs. So we got our bags. They had some edible goodies in them. They had some maps for SNCF, but the main thing that was in these bags were these little tickets that were for this huge wall of free giveaway games that all these companies had donated, right?
Okay.
So tons of awesome sponsors, from Tasty Minstrel to Splotter to just a myriad of companies. I think 36 different companies donated games.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it was.
For a second-year con especially.
Yeah, for sure. And each, depending on the level, price, whatever of the game, each bag had 1 or 2 of these little tickets in them.
Okay.
So my wife and I, between us, we ended up, and it's just luck of the draw, D. It just is what it is. Some guy got the Great Zimbabwe, and here's what we got. So,
Okay.
So very happy to have gotten these things, and I thank Heavy Cardboard so much for these awesome games.
All right.
I got my 3rd copy of Zulkin. I got my 2nd copy of Aquasphere, and I got an insert for a game I don't have. I got an insert for Trajan. But over the course of the week, I was able to make a couple of good trades. I sold Zulkin for $20, so I got
Okay.
$20. Who needs 3 copies of Zulkin?
Absolutely not.
Right? And I was glad to get it to the guy who wanted it because he was really excited about it.
It's a great game. Who needs 3 copies of anything?
That's very true, D. And I was also able to trade the Trajan insert for Fate of Endines, which is the smaller box version of Devastation of Endines, which I love. And it's essentially, it's good to have Fate of Endines because Devastation is such a huge box.
Right.
And this is just more characters for that game, but a smaller box with a smaller size board in it. So if you're wanting to take BattleCon somewhere, you get your favorite characters from each of the games, put them in the small box with the smaller board and smaller pieces, and you got a good travel edition.
Nice.
Right? So it's extra characters with a travel size box and board.
Sounds good.
So I came home with Aquasphere. We'll do a giveaway for that soon. And what else? I also got a $15 gift card for Meeple Source.
Cool.
Which I've already used. I've ordered Anna Meeples for Agricola, so my cubes are about to be upgraded. At least the animal cubes are.
Right.
So D started gaming pretty early the first day. We sat down with the girlfriend of, I don't know, the kind of the celebrity guests of the convention were Joris and Jeroen, the 2 designers and owners of Splotter and all of Splotter's titles. And we sat down with one of their girlfriends to play Signoria, which we're about to talk about. So we got a game of Signoria in. It was my sixth or seventh game. So I played this game a lot now. Had a great time playing it. Taught my wife how to play it. She did really well. The person we were playing with had already played it before as well. So we had a great time playing that game. Then later that day, we played Dominant Species. So I've got a copy of Dominant Species at home, but hadn't played it. And this is one of the best things about a convention, right?
Right.
You've got games at home that you haven't played, and someone else teaches you the rules to
That's
it.
the
So you
best,
don't have to
man.
read the rules to the game. So Dominant Species, we played a 6-player game, which you hear people say maybe don't play a 6-player game of this, but I mean, it works with 6 players because it's an area control game. You don't want just 2 players.
Right.
3's okay probably, but 4 or 5 is probably the sweet spot for that. I don't know for sure. I've only played it with 6 at this point.
Okay.
But we played a 6-player game of this. It was, I think only 2 people had played it before. Edward, the host of Heavy Cardboard, it's one of his top 5 games, so he was happy to teach it to us. We
Sure.
played this with him. Haley picked it out. He took us to his hotel room and said, pick out a game. She picked that out. We played it.
Okay.
Dominant Species is so much fun. It's got this it's almost a game, it's a Euro game that's got like the buzz of playing a war game.
Ooh.
I mean, it's really the interaction,
Right.
the player interaction with the Euro mechanisms is so much fun. It is a really fun game. People call it a Waro, like a war game Euro,
Right.
essentially. And it is a lot of fun. And he had upgraded pieces. So I was playing the arachnids, I believe. So I had actual little, spider pieces, and there were penguins for the birds and little elephants for the mammals and stuff like that. So
That's
everyone
cool.
had their own little pieces. And it's a really fun game. It's area control where you're putting out, you're trying to gain dominance in different regions, and you're getting things for having the most of something. I mean, it's area control.
Right.
And there's cards that do various things. Some of them help you and hurt everybody else. A very few of them help everybody, and some of them hurt everybody, including you. And you have to play that. I mean, it's a dirty game.
Right.
It's definitely in your face, But we had a really good time playing Dominant Species, and I can't wait to play it again. I would really like to get a group of people at the shop that would be interested in playing that game.
Absolutely.
'Cause
That's
it
something
seems-
I've been meaning to talk to you about anyways, trying to find a regular group for the bigger, the games where we need more people.
Yeah, for sure. More than 2 players, and more than 3 players even.
Yes.
So, this game seems like it would be awesome at 4 or 5. So 6 might be a little too long in between turns.
Right.
But there's so much interesting stuff going on, and your pieces are being affected so much, even when it's not your turn, that it's not boring when it's not your turn. So 6 works, but 4 I bet would be really sweet with this game. So Dominant Species was fun. Those are the only 2 games we played on that day. I don't remember what else we did on that day, but we were driving around doing other stuff in Denver. We
Right.
kind of use this as a half vacation, half convention.
And there are lots of things to do in Denver.
Yeah, so we drove around Denver, looked at a few different things, went shopping a little bit, but started out the next day, got 3 games in the next day. First, I played Lignum, which is a game that cost over $100 to buy because it's only out in Germany.
Right.
And it's a game I've wanted to play. It's about being a lumberjack, I believe, in maybe the 1800s, 1700s, something like that, in Germany.
Okay.
And it's a really fun game. It's got kind of that, you see like Takedo, where it's like a circle with different action spaces where you get stuff.
Okay.
I think Takedo's more of a line, but it's different action spaces, and say I go to this one, you can't go to that one, you have to jump over me.
Right.
And you can go as far as you want, but you can't go backwards, sort of thing. So you're trying to get saws and get sawyers and woodcutters and wagons and fodder to feed your donkeys to pull the wagons,
Right.
stuff like that, all along this trail until each round, at the end of the round, you all finally end up in the forest cutting wood. Then you hopefully got the right transportation to get the wood back to your little camp, and then you're deciding, are you going to cut the wood? Are you going to just sell it? Are you going to start drying the wood to sell it for more? Then there's these task cards, where this task card needs a piece of dark wood that's dried +1 and a piece of soft wood that's dried +2. So you're trying to do these exact things to get that. It's a pretty heavy Euro game, but it is so much fun because it's very, very thematic.
Right.
I really love the mechanism of going forward in this circle to choose action spaces, but not being able to go backwards. So what's more important to you, right?
Right.
So there was one time where, you can even go really far forward. I jumped almost to the end one time from about the middle. I passed up like 4 things because I wanted that one thing bad enough to pass up 4 other things.
Right.
And then everyone else had like 2 more turns than me because I was at the end essentially. So that mechanism is really cool. The whole game together, there's a lot of good planning in the game. You're planning 3 turns ahead, doing the tasks. I jumped right into the expert version of the game because the person teaching it had played it a bunch and wanted to try the expert version.
Okay.
Which only added this thing called a planning phase, which is skipped in the regular version of the game, where it's an actual mechanism based around planning for future turns.
Okay.
So you land on this space and there's these cards and you have a 1, 2, and 3 chips. You have 2 of each of those. And I say I'm planning to do this action 2 rounds from now. So
Okay.
I put my 2 on that card and my two actual rounds from now on the round counter, and then I have to start setting myself up to complete that action, and if I do, I get a bonus for that action.
Okay.
So it added that into it. That was the expert version of the game, which was pretty tough. I tried to do it once, and I was definitely not ready for that part of the game.
Right.
But I did pretty good in the game. Didn't do bad for my first play, and it makes me want this game so bad. It's such a fantastic Euro game. I had a really good time playing this game.
Good.
The people we were playing with were really cool. Met a guy named Dion in the gym that morning, and he and I played a few games together, and he was a really cool guy. He's retired and goes to a lot of conventions, and he was cool to play with. Played with Jim from Punching Cardboard,
right?
One of the hosts of Punching Cardboard, and a really cool guy named Calvin, who I played a couple games with, who was just the nicest guy. So that was fun. Then also that day, right after that, played brass with Dion and Calvin, and my wife joined us for that game.
Right.
And this was my favorite game of the whole convention. This game clicked for me more than any game has clicked for me in a long time. I mean, in the middle of this game, I just felt like I got this game so good, and I did really well. I beat everybody in this game. I have to say I did really well.
Got one.
I usually don't think that much about winning and losing in games, sometimes to where I can't even remember if I won or lost, but this one, I just felt so good because it's a heavier game. My first Martin Wallace game I've ever played.
Really?
Yeah, first Martin Wallace game.
Crazy.
And I've got brass at home. Once again, got taught the rules to a game I have that I hadn't played. And I'm really excited for me and Haley or me and you to play because in the new deluxe edition, there's a 2-player map on the back of the board. So
okay.
It's playable 2 players now, but I had so much fun playing brass. It's such a cool game. I'd never played like a real like network route building game like that where you're starting iron industries and coal industries. And then in the middle of the game, you switch from having all these canals to now you're trying to build rail networks. And
right.
the way you add up points is really cool. And like, there's some stuff you can do with like depleting, like using one tile to deplete coal or iron and then playing another tile that makes demand for that. So then you get paid for all of the deplete. It's a really cool thing where you can set up some really cool combinations in it, which I thought was really cool for a drier Euro game.
Right.
So I really liked brass. It's probably my favorite game I played of the whole convention, I would say. And I cannot wait to play brass again. Let's see. What did we do that night? That night, my wife and I went out to dinner. We went all the way to Denver to go to Texas de Brazil.
Good food. Great
It's
food.
So good and so expensive. My goodness. I was telling you that my wife and I came in under budget on this trip, even with a $150 tab at this restaurant. So
I was like, Texas de Brazil is, as you said, it's pricey, but it's totally worth it. As every now and then, once in a while.
$50, $60 a person with a tip, and then with drinks, we got up to $150. So
right,
which doesn't take that many drinks to get up to $150.
Nope.
And I made the rookie mistake at this restaurant of hitting the big 25-foot long salad bar a little too hard.
Oh man.
Man, that goat cheese, though.
You can just get the salad bar. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's like half the price.
Really?
And all you get is a salad bar.
Because I might have done that, because there's plenty of great stuff. There's meat on the salad bar.
There is.
The restaurant's so focused on meat that there's meat at the salad bar. And goat cheese. Oh, my God. It's the biggest mound of goat cheese I've ever seen in my life, and it was so good. We went to Texas de Brazil, called it a night after that.
Okay.
And then the next day, wait, they didn't call it a night. We came back and played a whole nother game, D.
Oh, no.
We walked in the game room, found 2 guys that wanted to play, a guy we'd played Dominant Species with and a guy we met right then, and we played Lagrangia. Said, well, you guys want to play a game? Yes, I've got Lagrangia. I don't really remember how to play. The guy said, I know how to play really well. I'll teach it to everybody, and you can help me. And we played Lagrangia, had a great time. I love Lagrangia. It's such a fun Euro game, and I think everybody that played had a good time too. Haley really grokked it, and the other guy playing really got it, and I just really love that game. I really like playing Lagrangia, and it's one of those games that I feel like I will play regularly forever.
Right.
It's just got that feel to me. The cards are so interesting. Say there's a deck of 70 cards. Each of those 70 cards does 4 different things. There's so much replayability. Plus, you've got dice drafting, and then you've got the mechanism from Luna where you're kicking people. It's a temple in Luna. It's a market here. You're kicking people out by going to higher numbers than them. There's so many different mechanisms in this game that are almost full games themselves, but it's so simple and smooth at the same time. I introduced someone who had never played a Euro game to Lagrangia one night, and I really pumped it up thematically as much as you can do with a farming Euro sim.
Right.
And he loved it. I mean, it's a smooth enough game, even though it's a little bit of a medium to heavy game. It's a smooth enough game that a new Euro player got it easily. So I had a great time playing Lagrangia. Called it a night, got up the next morning, and me and my wife went to the mountains. We wanted to go to the mountains, so we spent half the day doing something else. We went to Idaho Springs in Colorado.
Okay.
Ate at a really, I guess, a famous pizza place there that have mountain-style pizza, which is like just normal pizza, where it's got like a really thick crust, and they bring you honey to put on the crust to eat. So you eat the pizza down to the crust and then pour honey on the crust and eat it.
Sounds delicious.
It was very good, and it was so nice being up in the mountains. We didn't go into the mountains, but we were at a town in the mountains.
Oh, man. Next time you go, I'm assuming you're going next year.
Yeah.
Make a point to go down the other side of the mountains.
Okay.
The view looking back from the other side once you're down off the Rockies is gorgeous.
Okay.
It's not that intensive time-wise. You can do it in an afternoon easy.
Yeah.
And the other side of the Rockies is just beautiful.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, we went up to the mountain, didn't go any further than that, and we just like spent time walking around the town and looking at the view. And,
right.
You know, the drive is, I've never driven up like that or down like that. It's definitely different. Your car does not want to brake at all.
It takes work.
Yeah, so had a good time doing that. Came back that day. I got in a game of Madeira. I've always wanted to try Madeira.
Okay.
Got in a 4-player game of Madeira, and people are right when they talk about this game. It's a tough one to get. I mean, I got the rules, but there's so much planning involved in this game that it's a really tough game to play, and I'm sure you could play this game 10 times and not feel good at it at all.
Right.
Madeira is really heavy. You are in this game farming on the island of Madeira and choosing these different action tiles to try and complete those actions the best. And it's a ton of mechanisms. That's the thing about this game is there's so many mechanisms and they all work really well with each other.
Right.
But choosing one small path to take to try and use that strategy to victory takes a work. So you want to do one little bitty thing. I mean, one tiny little thing in this game takes you having done 3 other things to get to that little bitty thing. It's a brain burner. When people say brain burner, they're talking about this game.
It is super heavy.
So yeah, and then but I really did enjoy Madeira, and I'd like to play it again. I can't say that it was my favorite game of the convention,
right?
But I imagine a lot of people don't play that game and instantly think it's their favorite. It makes you want to play it again, and I'm sure after you played it 3 or 4 times, you really start enjoying it more and more. But it's not a game I would say I disliked at all. I really enjoyed it.
Right.
So, but then if that wasn't heavy enough, I decided to play my first 18xx game. And we played, I talked to Tony, the older host of the guy who used to be the co-host of Heavy Cardboard.
Right.
And told him I wanted to try an 18xx game. He found 2 other players who were new and wanted to try it. And I got my wife to agree to try it. And we played 18ms, which is supposed to be a little bit of a entry level 18xx, not necessarily simpler, but more entry level in that it's a little more focused on the route building, or it's kind of a good mix of route building and stock market or stock stuff, right?
Okay.
So it's also good entry level because it's got an exact end. You play 5 stock rounds and 10 operating rounds, and then the game's over.
Okay.
I would say in total, with 4 new players playing a 4-player game with very experienced 18xx people teaching and running us through it. Tony started it, and then another guy, I can't remember his name, but he ran us through the rest of the game. He pretty much like DM'd the game for us,
cool.
Where he did all the stuff and like helped us along. And I would say with that, it took us about 4 to 5 hours to play it.
That's not bad when you add in the learning curve.
For 4 players, especially.
Yeah. You could probably easily cut an hour off of that with even moderately experienced players.
Yeah, for sure. And I got to say, 18MS is from Deep Thought Games. It's one of the Deep Thought games where if you order it from Deep Thought, there's like a 2 or 3 year waiting list.
Right.
You can order it from Golden Spike, but you're going to pay $120 for it.
Right.
Which actually this game you're going to pay $200 for because this is 3 games in one. You're actually buying the game 18 Dixie, which comes with 18MS and 18 GA. So you're getting 3 games for $200. And you get it in a few weeks, or you can pay $100 and get it in 3 years from Deep Thought.
Seems like a good deal. Just pay the extra, get all 3.
Yeah, in a quick amount of time,
right.
Fast time. I mean, they're pretty much handmade too. So
that's awesome.
So if you're interested, go check out Golden Spike Games, where you can get this and the other 2 games that it comes with, and a ton of other 18xx games.
Okay.
But 18MS was really interesting. I will say that I didn't grasp it quite like I thought I would.
Right.
It really took me a while. Maybe it was because I just played Madeira and my brain was hurting.
That might have been it.
I don't know what it was, but I really had a tough time getting this game. Towards the end, I got it and I understood what was going on, but I had done so badly the rest of the game that it did not matter how well I got it at the end.
Right.
I had failed at this game. My wife, on the other hand, just ruled this game. I mean, she did so good. I was so shocked.
That's awesome.
She was telling Tony that, I'm not a heavy gamer. I'm nervous about an 18xx game. And he was really cool to her too. And I mean, she did so well in it that he was talking about it on their message board about like Lance Haley can't say she's not a heavy gamer anymore, stuff like that. So she did really well. She got it from the beginning. It really clicked with her too. So
good.
I never thought my wife would want to play more 18xx games, but she does. So I really want to buy 1846, which is 3 players minimum. So you would have to join us for some 18xx games, and you really want to try them too.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's one of those things where even more than Madeira, I didn't really get it, and I struggled, but I want to play it more very badly. I can't say I didn't like it because I liked the challenge of it.
Right.
I feel challenged to understand these games. So essentially, you are in your initial round is getting 60% of a company so that you're the president of that company.
Okay.
And then you are in your operating rounds, you're laying track and making train runs so that you get paid and you can decide to keep all that money for your company so that you can do certain things with the company, like buy trains to make train runs.
Right.
Or you can pay dividends to yourself as the president, which is, a certain percentage of the money it brought in. And that's how you buy stock in other people's companies.
Okay.
So other people are buying stock in your company. So when you are making train runs, you're paying dividends to yourself and to them. You may decide like, I've got enough money. There's too many people with stock in my company. My company is going to keep it so they don't get paid dividends.
Right.
The person that ends up with the most money wins. So there's just 5 rounds of buying stock in each other's company and selling stock and dropping stock. And then there's 10 rounds of laying track and making train runs and deciding what you're going to do with the money that's made for those train runs.
Sounds good.
And then there's other things that happen in 18xx games that we didn't really get into,
right?
Which are like dumping a company on someone. Like if someone owns enough stock in your company, you can run it into the ground and dump it on them so that now they've got a bad company and you just start a brand new company. So you're starting,
right.
Stuff. It gets a lot more ruthless than what we played. They were telling us about all these different things you can do, but saying we're not going to do that this game. And somebody was going, I'm going to do it. Like it was a whole thing. But Haley had a fantastic time. The other 2 players, I think, really got it. I just struggled a little bit, but got it at the end, and I can't wait to play more. The experienced players teaching us were kind of saying that with 18xx, you really have to play 4 or 5 or 6 games of any 18xx game before you can read a rule book and get what it's saying.
Right.
So I was kind of thinking it might be good to find like maybe an 18xx group in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and make a trip or two up there and try some stuff out. So 18MS I really enjoyed. That night there was a big barbecue thing, and they handed out awards. They made awards for all of the Golden Elephant Heavy Game of the Year awards, and the Splatter guys were there to accept their award for Food Chain Magnate.
Awesome.
There was actually a really crazy thing that happened at the convention. The 2 Splatter guys came all the way from the Netherlands, and they were coming back, I believe, in like an Uber car, and got in a wreck.
Oh, man.
And one of the 2 guys broke some ribs and got a concussion. So he looked like he was having a fine time, but he looked like he was in some pain the rest of the time, too. So
well, that's understandable if he had some broken ribs. I mean, that's never fun.
Came all the way from the Netherlands and got in a wreck, and it was a whole thing.
Have you ever had broken ribs, sir?
No, I haven't.
Let me describe broken ribs to you. The only time they hurt is every time you breathe.
So all day.
Yeah, just think about that. Every time you inhale.
Yeah, that's tough, man.
Yeah.
So, he looked like he was in some pain for sure, but the barbecue was good. The award thing was cool, and then they handed out all the prizes. Everyone went up and got their prizes and their glasses and their shot glasses.
Cool.
And it was a good last night, and then we finished out our 18xx game, and everyone had a great time. And then we played some code names at the end of the night to kind of cap off the night, and Tony had made a deck of Codenames cards himself.
Right.
That were all heavy game themed. So they were names of games, publishers, mechanisms, designers, stuff like that. So it was actually a really tough game of
that would be really rough
code names. So I think we played 3 games of that where there were 3 people on each team, so where each person got to be the person giving the clues once, and it was a lot of fun. Had a good time. Haley was playing a game of regular code names at another table at that time. So, it was cool to get to cap off a week of heavy gaming with a game of code names based on heavy gaming stuff. So, but that was it. The next day we got up bright and early, had some breakfast, chatted with our buddy we made. His name was Kyle at breakfast, and headed home. And 13-hour drive home. The big storms in North Texas on Sunday, we drove through for about 5 hours.
Oh, man.
It was pretty much following us the entire time. It was pretty terrible. I mean, hail coming down on us the drive home. So,
that's rough.
Yeah, it was a rough drive home. Made a few stops, got home to our kiddo, and it was great. We were glad to see him. And there was a whole thing with the vet where we were kenneling our dog at the vet.
Right.
And we said, okay, we'll be back Sunday. And they said, well, you can't pick them up Sunday. We're closed. And we said, okay, don't people come out here to walk and feed them? We can't pick them up. And they said, no, we're closed. And we said, okay, we'll pick her up Monday. So, well, that's Memorial Day. We're off Memorial Day. And they said, okay, so you're Tuesday? So at some point, I just got one of my family members that were keeping our son to go pick our dog up and keep over the rest of the time. Because that's crazy, right?
Yes.
Can't pick your dog up for 2 days after you're home. It's kind of ridiculous. So, and that's like the only kennel in this town that does it that way. But we decided to wait until 2 days before Memorial Day weekend to try and find a kennel for our dog. So
that's probably part of it.
Yeah. So, but I got to say, D, we had a fantastic time. This is probably my favorite convention experience yet.
Good.
I've been to BGG. I've been to local cons in Waco and Austin and this, and I got to say I had the best time I've had at a convention at this convention. Because there was a small group of people, 40-something people.
Right.
Everyone getting to know each other, getting to play games with the same people over and over, and just really having a good time.
That's really awesome.
I got to say, alcohol was allowed, so people were, not getting drunk, but drinking a little bit at the end of the night and playing games. And it was just such a good vibe, too, ordering food and eating and playing games. And I got to say, it was a really cool time. The guys that run the board game group on Facebook were really cool guys. I would suggest checking that out. There's like 12,000 members on that Facebook group. And it looks like a really cool thing to be involved into. And they were the ones that did the glasses and the shot glasses and stuff for everybody. And there were just a lot of cool people there. A lot of podcasters. The guys who do the Low Player Count podcast were there.
Right.
The Brawling Brothers podcast, Punching Cardboard, Heavy Cardboard, of course, and I'm pretty sure some other podcasters were there too. And then just some cool people, right? There were a lot of people playing 18xx games all weekend. Age of Steam was going on all over the place.
Right.
All kinds of stuff, but great convention, D. Hopefully, maybe you'll get to go to HeavyCon sometime.
That's definitely on the to-do list now.
Yeah, it's a good convention in Denver, and I think next year it's supposed to grow even more. Maybe they'll get up to 60, 70 people next year.
Awesome.
I think they're moving to a different venue next year even because this was a little bit small for 40 people. It was a room that was, as long as everybody were playing 3 and 4, 5-player games, there was just enough table space.
Right.
If you were wanting to split off and just play a 2-player game with someone, it would get cramped, and it was very loud too.
Right.
So I got to say the hotel was really awesome too. They were the most accommodating hotel you've ever seen.
Cool.
We were able to go out into the continental breakfast area and play games as much as we wanted. So it kind of spilled over into that area too.
Well, they probably paid a pretty decent little sum there to reserve that room all weekend.
Yeah, that's true. So aside from during breakfast, because there weren't other meals, there wasn't a restaurant at the hotel or anything.
Right.
So that area was open all the time. So played games out there. Not everybody played games out there, but when it was just too crowded or too loud, you could spill out over into that area.
Right.
Gotta say the craziest thing that happened was there's a newer game called Mega Civilization, Mega Civ, which is a kind of a remake of Civilization, Sid Meier's Civilization board game, which plays up to 18 players.
Wow.
They were able to play a 14-player game of this, and I think it maybe took 12. They started at 7 p.m. one day and finished at about maybe noon or 2 p.m. the next day. So, I mean, they played for maybe 10 to 12 hours.
Probably so.
Game. 14
players, I
game.
can believe it.
The cards that you could buy or whatever had their own table. They were all laid out on a table. There were like 5 tables put together with the board and the players sitting around it. It looked like it was fun, not for me.
Right.
But since we didn't get to stay all 4 days, I don't know that I would have wanted to have spent an entire day playing one game.
I can see both sides of that. On the one hand, it's a huge time commitment. You've got other things you want to do. There are other games, yada, yada. On the other hand, that's a heck of a story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played a 14-person game of Civilization with a giant board.
Yeah.
It took me 12 hours, but I won.
Whatever.
It was pretty okay.
It was a Tuesday. Yeah. So I could say if you had like a game group that played heavy games all the time and you got a lot of gaming in all through the week and you got to go to a lot of conventions, then yeah. But if you are like me and are just like trying to get as much gaming in as possible so you can get stuff played during a convention like this, then, I got to play 4 games during that time, So anyway, it looked like they had a good time doing it.
Sounds good.
It was an experience thing, you know what I mean? So yeah, that was HeavyCon, D. I got to say, I believe that's about it. I came home with a Fate of Endines, a Meeple Source gift card, $20 for Zulkin, and a second copy of Aquasphere. But those people that got like the Great Zimbabwe and stuff like that, I mean, I wish I would have been choosier with the bag. I could not have known what was in them.
Luck of the draw, man.
That's very true, and that's what it was. And there were some very happy people, especially the people getting their Splotter games signed by the designers.
Absolutely.
And, it was really cool. So we're going to go to a break, guys, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about Signoria, which got a ton of plays in, so we've got a lot to say about this game. We'll be right back.